Sony have finally unveiled their next big plan, and this is something that you could see as being a key part in their overall plan to compete with Microsoft. Now, this is not really Game Pass Sony Edition. It is a different product, but I think it's quite clearly trying to compete with Game Pass. Though, funny enough, as much as Game Pass gets all of the talk and is a stupid good deal and all of that, more people actually have PS Plus, which is a funny little thing. But then, of course, you bring in the Xbox Live Gold numbers. That all ties into Microsoft's strategy, I guess, of trying to turn Xbox Live Gold people into Game Pass people.
Yeah, which is exactly what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Obviously, PS Now likely has a lot less numbers than Game Pass. PS Plus is a lot more. So why not just turn PS Now into PS Plus? And then you've got more subs. Just by magic.
Yeah, so we've got that, and also the Ryan cycle.
Oh, yes.
Kind of fun, because Jim Ryan has been talking again.
Yep, he's been talking. Every time he does, he's just like, I think it was Jeff Grubb called it Ryanisms. You just get something stupid, like he said, was it the virtuous cycle between publisher and developer, and that's just a phrase people will use from now on. Not in a good way.
So, to cover what this new PS Plus is, right? So there's PS Plus Essential, which is, well, what you've already got, right? So 2 monthly downloadable games, discounts, cloud storage for saved games, online multiplayer access, $9.99 a month, $59.99 a year. But then, the new thing is the extra tier. So, that's $14.99 a month, $99 a year. So this adds a catalog of up to 400 PS4 and 5 games, they say, including blockbuster hits from the PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. And games in the extra tier are downloadable for play. So it's not just like a PS Now thing where you have access to it in a streaming service.
That's exactly why they've clarified this, because PS Now years ago changed to allowing downloadable for I think it was just PS4 games. It might have been the earlier ones, but not the PS3. But they've had that functionality, so this is literally just PS Now rolled in with a bigger, broader library. But that's the thing where they've done this because PS Now, everyone looked at it and went, oh, the streaming thing. That's the streaming thing. And that's not what it's been for years, but they have to actually go out of their way to stop this.
Funny thing in terms of positioning. Exactly. I think if you polled people, almost everyone would say PS Now is just a streaming thing.
Exactly.
It would be a bit like Microsoft trying to backdoor Game Pass into xCloud and sell xCloud and then have to remind people. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit weird.
Yep.
Now, Game Pass on consoles has 469 games, right? So Sony don't have that number, but they certainly have a big number. Plenty of games to play. Mm-hmm. In terms of launch titles, though, right? We've got Death Stranding, God of War, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. That's a pretty decent selection.
Yeah, sure. That's them focusing on like the high quality stuff. But then you look and you think, well, I think not sure about Death Stranding, but God of War was already there in the PS Plus collection. Yeah. So you look and you see, well, a lot of the PS4 best were already on there. But you see they're adding some of the PS5 ones as well. So it's like, okay, yeah, there will be like a decent first-party value here. But until we've seen what the third-party looks like, it's hard to compare to the likes of Game Pass. Because it's like, is this going to be a whole bunch of really cool, like, new third-parties in the same way like Bandai Namco? I can't remember if Tales of Arise is there, but like Scarlet Nexus is there, and that's a pretty big sell to be on Game Pass. So it's like, will they go toe-to-toe there, or will this be a lower quality outside of PlayStation Studios? I guess that's the big question.
Overall, I would not expect new first parties to be there on launch.
Nope,
they absolutely are not going to be sacrificing that incredible amount of money. But maybe a year or two after, you could see them rolled into this. Which once again means the patient gamer gets the really good deal.
Yep, an analyst, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but an analyst who works with Square Enix and Xbox for a while said he expects it to basically be the 3-month kind of cycle of the existing, like how theatrical releases go to streaming now. Yeah. He expected very much a 3-month plus kind of thing for this, but we don't know. Now,
that's not all. There is also Premium, which takes us from $14.99 to $17.99 or $119.99 for a year. So not that much extra money, but what it does do is add up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games via cloud streaming. So you won't be able to download the PS3 games, but I think to some people there'll be a pretty good value there. There's a few of those games I'm thinking about that, and I'm then thinking about that streamed.
Exactly.
These are not good thoughts. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing a turn-based RPG or something, you'd be totally fine. Yeah. But certainly not for a lot of games. But it's not just PS3. There's also going to be beloved classic games in both streaming and download options from the PlayStation 2 and PSP.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more interesting to me.
This is where we get the interesting thing, where this is very much like, this is the value people wanted. People wanted to see, go to that legacy that you have and make that available to us, because people just want to play those old games and they don't do it in any other way. Sure, there's a bunch of them on PS1 and PS2 you can buy, but it's like so much of that legacy of the Sony, of the PlayStation, is just dead and gone. So the fact that they're going, yeah, here's, if you want our version of Game Pass, that's $100. Throw us an extra $20 a year. You'll have all the PS3 games via cloud streaming, which we're not going to make an emulator. We're just not going to do that. They've decided it's not worth the effort, clearly.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see why when you look at the cell architecture. But then, I guess it all really boils down to which of these beloved classic games there are. Is it going to be here's all the ones people talk about, but nothing interesting? Or are they going to actually reach deep and give, is this going to be a really good value option for people who are interested in the history of PlayStation? Or is this going to be lip service to their catalog? I guess that's the big thing.
Yeah. Can we eventually play Croc? That's what's important.
Yeah, exactly.
So they say, offering cloud streaming access for original PlayStation 2, PSP, and PS4 games that are offered in the extra and premium tier in markets where PlayStation Now is currently available.
Yep, there's a secret hidden fourth tier called PlayStation Plus Deluxe, which is basically premium but without streaming for those places that don't have streaming literally available in their market yet. So that just kind of goes, they didn't want to expand the PS3 emulator or anything else. They're just streaming will be part of this now.
Yeah. And then, I think this is a bit more interesting. Time-limited game trials that are going to be offered in this tier. So, of course, that's something that for loads of games on Steam is, part of Next Fest or something. Which, who knows? Maybe we'll end up doing one of those. But that's a pretty normal thing now in PC, which has been really nice to see.
Yeah, normal for indies, I should say.
Normal for indies, yeah. So this is interesting. Certainly, for a AAA example, Mass Effect Andromeda. Yeah. The EA Play trial that rather led to a few GIFs spreading. So overall, that's what they're doing. This is going to be coming out in June for several markets in Asia, followed by the rest of the world, basically first half of 2022.
Yep, and this is a very this is just random Tuesday news, so they haven't told us any of the library. They haven't said, here's the kind of games to expect for, the classic. They've literally said nothing. This is all the information we have, outside of what we're about to get into, which is a lot of the, what's the catch, and a lot of, the deeper stuff that Jim Ryan talked to GameIndustry.biz about.
Yeah. I just think comparing these then.
Yeah.
So Xbox, just comparing the two different offerings, I suppose, because if PS Now is going to be having so much more in terms of value.
PS Plus, but yeah.
Or PS Plus even, yeah. It's just interesting for how we view things.
Yeah.
Microsoft have undoubtedly got the awareness and the branding around Game Pass super, super strong in a way that Sony don't.
Yeah.
I suppose also plus PC.
That's one of the
decently relevant.
that's one of the big things here where obviously this doesn't matter to somebody who doesn't have a PlayStation. But that's where I think the actual what the plan of this is. This was never a plan to go, we need a whole bunch of new users on our platform. This seems to be a plan to me. Everything about it is kind of positioned as, we need to stop people thinking Game Pass is better than what we have and to move over to the Xbox or move over to the PC. Especially when it comes to the Series S having more availability and being cheaper. They kind of need to go, well, we need to make sure that people can play our games without being, nickeled and dimed in the same way that someone who's buying all of their games on day one will feel. Because, even buying a couple games a month or a couple games a year now is starting to feel too expensive.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, but it's very much, people who are on PlayStation, please don't leave. We have a massive library for you without spending a whole bunch of extra money, especially when you look at the yearly cost, and it's an extra, it is an extra $40 a year. But $40 a year to move from what they currently have up to, hey, you have also 400 games that are modern games that you can play, is a kind of, please stay on our platform, please.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it depends on the quality, because if they can get Game Pass on a bit of a budget but without the first party stuff, I would be happy enough. Especially because I already pay for PS Plus, so it'll be an extra $40 a year. And then I wouldn't have to go and buy a bunch of back catalog stuff. And also because I like the platform of the PS5, I wouldn't be too concerned. If I could, I bought Scarlet Nexus, but all of the Bamco and Square Enix stuff that's on Game Pass, and some of the Sega stuff, and some of even the Capcom stuff, that's like a really good like value for Game Pass on PC. If Sony just went, we can have parity with most of this, then I would feel substantially better as a PS5 owner.
Yeah, I think the other side I'm thinking about is just the business side, right? So, I mean, good example, our publisher just closed 4 Game Pass deals.
Yeah.
For like Kraken Academy and a few other games, which was interesting to see. And something that generally is there in the indie space, be it a game like, say, Yes, Your Grace, lots of indies are obviously trying to get on Game Pass, right? It's a decently major thing. Yeah. It's something that Xbox is also, they take submissions for. They're kind of fishing around for that. So they're like an active player in that space trying to secure more of those games. So how is Sony going to operate there? Is this a situation where, there's a big catalog here, but they're not going to be as active in signing new games for release on this? I don't really know, and we won't know until it comes out. But that's maybe the only side where I could see... like a bit of a difference.
Yeah, that's where it comes down to the execution of this, as opposed to just the product on its base level. In the talk with the games industry .biz, he does say, JBiz say that they've said every major publisher is present in the service and conversations go well there. So you're expecting like the AAA publishers, you're expecting your Bamcos, your Square Enix, maybe some EA, because obviously they might want parity on the EA Play on Game Pass thing. They might aim for some of that, or Ubisoft as an example. But Ryan himself also says, whether it's indies, whether it's big games, or things that celebrate our heritage, all sorts of games, we're going to have all of it, and hopefully a lineup that ticks all sorts of boxes. So obviously that doesn't mean, day one indie releases or something like that, but that's basically their biggest kind of biggest hole in their offering right now, is indies at value. And that's the thing that really, really is, like, basically compared to PC, and especially compared to Game Pass on PC, having a PS5 sucks for that. Because indies are just too expensive, discoverability's not there, and that's the thing that they seem to be aware of that. As to whether they can fix it, that's a different question.
Yeah, interesting little thing. The great majority of people who subscribe are doing so through a 12-month subscription.
Yep.
Which I suppose, like, I don't know, always being in the SaaS land, it's often people will subscribe monthly, like, just to test something out and then kind of bite the bullet for yearly. So that's interesting. They've been able to convert so many people over. And I guess even I think about Blizzard and what they want with World of Warcraft right now. It's all about the rolling 6-month sub.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine if World of Warcraft tries to do an annual sub? It actually makes me think about the annual pass.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Years and years ago, that would get you the Diablo mount and Diablo 3.
That's right. Yeah.
Why haven't they resurrected that to make some money? Come on, Blizz!
Because they have no games to sell, unlike when they had Diablo 3.
But
no, that's interesting, because my experience of that is this was many, many years ago now, but PS Plus had a really steep discount on the 12-month, and I started my 12-month then, and I've not looked back. Every time it's like November, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm paying for PS Plus this month. That's fine, because I've got all these games and stuff, and I do make a decent use of it. So I think that's actually interesting, because I was looking for it earlier, and I couldn't see an annual pricing for Game Pass. Because Game Pass is $10 a month. Or like a 10, I think it's $12 a month, I think.
Something
like that. And that's just going to be, $140 a year. But then you look at if you're committed to the platform here, extra is $100 yearly, which does mean that monthly it's more expensive, but yearly it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And if you have dedicated customers and you don't want them to leave, offering them that, like, hey, you can have this for a whole year and it'll be cheaper, does technically mean for, like Ryan says, for a lot of their consumers, it's just better.
And there's the other secret part of this, which of course is every single month somebody gets something in their bank statement, especially if they're using something like Monzo, where, it's like there's an app in your phone and it's all super convenient. Every time someone sees that, or they get the confirmation email in their inbox, that's a reminder they're paying for something.
Yeah.
Every one of those reminders could equally be a reminder to stop. In the same way that, like, loads of YouTubers, they don't do something, then they publish a video, they see people unsubscribe, and they're like, oh, no! And they have a complete melty over it, even though it's actually, no, you publishing that video, all that did is remind people you're there, and some people no longer want what you've got. So by having the reminder of a payment be every 12 months, they will get so many more people who, honestly, like me, just, don't know, forget. It just keeps on going, and they sort of assume. So to go to what Jim Ryan's been saying then, He says he feels that they're in a good virtuous cycle at the studios where investment delivers success, which enables yet more investment, which delivers more success. Infinite money! You've cracked it, Jim.
So far it's been working, so...
Yeah, the games industry does just keep on going. Yep. So we like that cycle, and we think our gamers like that cycle. I mean, it's a bit of a funny generic statement. I guess it is kind of true, though. So going on, though, he says that they feel if they do more with the games that they make at PlayStation Studios, that the cycle will be broken.
Yeah, so if they put these on their PlayStation Plus Extra, then they won't be able to generate the revenue, which is investment that they can put straight back in. So this is them literally just going, our users will pay more, but that money will go directly and make better games, which is... very much something I foresaw a while ago of like where they're going to stand on this and go, listen, we're making the premium games. The competitor is not making the best, the premium games. The PlayStation Studios were we're the Marvel of of video games, and that's the kind of thing where that's a terrible analogy. But as you know, in terms of like the PlayStation Studios like lead in feeling that like, oh, this is a PlayStation Studios game. This is a big premium experience. You're not going to get anywhere else. And this is worth your $70 every time it comes out. Also gives $100 a year for all of your like in between game time, which is it's brave, but it's hard to fault his logic. Literally.
I think it would be more brave to do the opposite. And this is a situation where at least they're being honest, because we all know that in their position this is what we would do.
Oh yeah,
certainly looking at the numbers that they have access to.
Yeah, definitely.
Now for PC, some interesting things. They say they've had great critical success and great commercial success, and a few years ago nobody would have saw that coming. I think that's true in all counts, and certainly seeing God of War run so well does actually bode quite well.
That's right.
So all's good in PC, and we should note there's going to be no Sony first parties like immediately. He did say they maybe will change their mind in the future, but obviously we'll just have to see how the numbers actually bear out. Now, one interesting thing, some numbers. It's always fun. I remember there was like a leak a while ago where we got to see what Microsoft actually paid for some Game Pass titles. So according to VGC, for Guardians of the Galaxy, Dave Gibson, who's a senior analyst at MST Financial, has estimated that Square Enix was paid around $5 to $10 million to put their superhero adventure on Game Pass. That's really quite low.
That's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of...
Yeah.
I mean, what would that be as a percentage of that game's budget? I remember hearing, Mass Effect Andromeda was 30 to 40 million. But a game... Yeah. You have to wonder, right?
Yeah. I would maybe say that's maybe looking at like 5 to 10% of the budget, maybe. Because that's a $100 million game, I think, in terms of... Because that was... what do you call them? Eidos Montreal, right?
Yeah.
That was a very, very big, very, very big... Well, it wasn't the biggest game of all time, but they definitely put a lot of effort into making it feel AAA. It probably wasn't as expensive as the Avengers, but it was still expensive. And then, David Gibson's like, yeah, that's... Retail, they get $29 of profit per game sold.
Yeah,
this is $2 per game.
Yeah, that's what Dave's saying. Like...
Is that sustainable? That's the big question here.
See, that's the really strange thing. In the indie side...
Yeah.
I actually don't have literal numbers, because I'm not like privy to those deals. There's the stuff that leaked, but generally the thought from indies, it's like, oh hey, yeah, if you get Game Pass, like bam, your production budget's covered, you're happy. Which honestly, for an indie, is really all you need. Yeah, so perhaps it seems like for these very large AAA games, where maybe Game Pass ends up being a bit of a parachute. To sort of save them. Because that's the weird thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. In spite of being, by all accounts, an excellent game, Square Enix were not all too happy with how it performed.
No, but then obviously everyone points out every time Square Enix are insane and seem to have way higher expectations for Western games than anyone else has. Specifically with Guardians, it's like, I think they're happier with it now, but I don't know how much of that's because they got it on Game Pass post-launch and went, there's some of the money back, we're fine. It's hard to say.
Yeah, so strange thing. And then, as you said, Dave talks about the sort of movie release to, streaming thing. Now then, retro games. This is a area where Jim Ryan has had a bit of a mixed record. Because we remember what he said in 2017. When we've dabbled with backward compatibility, I can say it is one of those features that's much requested, but not actually used much. And he's talking about the old Gran Turismo games, saying, they looked ancient. Why would anyone play this?
Brutal.
Now, he then clarified that the point he was trying to make, obviously not that well, was just how great the PS4 version looked and how far the series has evolved, and he was certainly not trying to be disrespectful to the heritage. But a bit of damage was done.
Yeah, so
But obviously a bit of a change here, because if you want retro games, it seems like this could actually be a fantastic offering.
Big emphasis on could.
Yes.
Right, because he says it's not for everyone. This is why it's in the premium tier. It's an extra $20. He says once we share the lineup of the world, there'll be a lot of interest. That doesn't bode well for me, because I feel like you don't want a lot of interest in this. Because if you're saying, obviously 2017 was a while ago, but if you're saying one of those features is much requested and not used much, you can assume he's not just talking shit there. You can assume he's seen numbers and went, that's low utilization of backwards compatibility.
I would totally believe that, in fairness. Totally.
Exactly. This is a thing where this is like power users and niche consumers want this, but it's like one of the big narrative wins where if they do this correctly. But the thing is, if they target this for like, hey, we'll put on the games that a bunch of, forgive the phrasing, but a bunch of normies would be interested in, and then they can just play it every now and again and be happy enough. Like, oh, there's go play Medieval, the original, instead of the remaster. It's on your thing, whatever else. Or there's Wipeout or something like that, as opposed to like really making the proper history of it available. And also it's like the quality of emulation. If this is just it's $20 on top of extra, just get $20 out of people who are vaguely nostalgic, then it doesn't imply to me that they're going to actually put the effort into making their emulation good. You're not going to get here's nice upscaling options, here's a bunch of filtering options.
Oh no.
It's just going to be the case of this will be handy to do, but it's not going to be better than just doing it on PC yourself with like DuckStation or something.
How was PlayStation Classic?
Oh, the actual physical one?
Yeah.
I think that was okay. But again, I think that was like, it's like the original thing, as opposed to here's all your options, here's all your freedom, here's all your ability to have a better experience. I think like, based on how they've treated their legacy before, especially with Jim Ryan in charge, who obviously is trying to walk back a couple of things he said, but the whole thing is they clearly don't care that much, and this will be lip service to it as opposed to genuinely making it available and a good experience.
Well, I would say too, it's not that much more money, and because this is all just a subscription, like that's just more pure profit, right? So they're going to be happy with that. I think for a lot of people, it's so much less money that they'll probably see and be like, you know what, this is a fair enough upsell.
Exactly.
And I imagine to Sony, it's easy to emulate, easy to deliver. It probably has a very limited amount of customer support or anything like that that's needed. So it's just a nice, handy thing.
That's exactly the problem, where to do this properly, they would need to go and sort out tons of publishing agreements, tons of licensing deals for a bunch of games of like falling off the like radar, or, maybe the publisher defunct, maybe the developer's defunct. Where do we put all this money? Or where do we make this happen legally? That's the stuff they would need to do to make this feel good and proper, like a proper, respectful thing of the history. But it's going to be, here's what we found in the back of the storage garage. Here's what we found. We looked at the PS1 folder on the company NAS. We found a couple ROMs. There you go. You're kind of like more like a Nintendo solution, as opposed to the people who love PS1 and PS2 are really happy now. It's going to be people who never played PS1 and PS2 get a small taste. That's the fear.
It's, for someone like me, what they do is probably more than enough to be satisfying.
Yeah.
I think to the people who are enthusiasts of that, perhaps they're never going to be targeted anyway, because they're just doing all this stuff in PC.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Now, to take us to a final thing to close us off, let's talk numbers. Numbers are always fun. So, our PlayStation Plus subscriber count has grown from 0 in 2010 to 48 million now. We think about Game Pass, they're in around 25 million.
Yep.
Of course, Game Pass and PlayStation Plus are like different products, so there's that. And I think there's lots of people who've got Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass. But then there's the whole, there's the whole thing of like, at what point is it just everyone going to have Ultimate, and that will be the new baseline, and it's got a higher price point. Yep. But anyway, they're saying that they're anticipating further growth for subscriber revenue. Absolutely. I mean, how many people are they going to be able to upsell into these higher tiers?
Exactly.
So GameIndustry.biz pointing out the 25 mil. Jim Ryan, doesn't think the submodel will be as dominant elsewhere.
Yeah, as dominant as elsewhere, because as he said, The medium of gaming is so very different to music and to linear entertainment that I don't think we'll see it go to the levels we see with Spotify or Netflix. And obviously on the statement that game's different, I completely agree. But he's probably ultimately kind of right. But I guess that's kind of a thing for basically the victor will write the history here. And it's going to be either Sony with their premium or everyone playing a whole bunch of games all the time on the Game Pass model. And everything that Xbox have said is, I'm trying to remember the stats, but basically, people with Game Pass play so many more games and spend so much more money.
Yep. Now, there's one other thing. That's live services.
Oh, yeah.
Live services that, Jim's just kind of saying, hey, it's just another way to do a subscription, but it's not a subscription. Anyone who back in the day when maybe the game deserved some more evangelizing, you try to get your friends to play WoW or something, and they'd be like, a subscription in a no. Free to play live service or a, buy once and then there's microtransactions live service. For a lot of people, that's actually a more palatable option. Yep. So on that, he basically says that live services are effectively subscription services in themselves, and they're very much tailored to the needs of the gamer who loves whatever game that they're spending the hours in month after month. If you look for a model in our category of entertainment which supports sustained engagement over long periods of time, live service games arguably fit that bill better than a subscription service.
Yep.
And in fairness to him, when you look at a specific video game subscription service, yeah, the ones that we know of, like Survivor Bias.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, live services are substantially more successful than subscription services. You could argue no one's tried something on the scale of Game Pass yet, outside of Xbox starting it. And obviously they've seen really good numbers, but are those numbers as good as like Destiny getting, what was it, $60 a year sub effectively from their 4 seasons, and then the expansion every now and again?
Plus all of the silver, isn't it?
Yeah.
People purchase.
Yeah, all of the like I guess the whole point of live services, the monetization opportunities. So, saying that really felt really gross, mate. But yeah, all the monetization you can get because people are logging in every day, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, hey, as a gamer, there's nothing I want more than a good old fashioned self-investment opportunity into the video games that I play. Yeah. So basically, that's it. We've got this new service from Sony. We've got a little bit of, interesting points of differentiation between themselves and Microsoft. Good. Shit's heating up. Right? Who knows? I guess, personally, I'm wondering about this from the, co-head of a company situation where I'm like, what does this mean for, the money that's floating around? What deals can be made? How does that work? There's a lot of people who will say that Game Pass has been great, really great for a certain, echelon of indies who have been able to get a publisher, and then, through that, there's a relationship with Microsoft, and that, from what I understand, has been a super positive thing. I've literally never heard a bad thing from an indie who's been in Game Pass. So now Sony are also entering the ring. That's pretty interesting. And, even I'd heard some rumblings that after there was the whole hubbub last year, of Sony not being great to work with for indies. Not seemingly because Sony intended, but just because all their systems were antiquated. Yeah, so they couldn't really deal with that scale. I've heard some rumblings of Sony wanting a better image in around the indie devs. So all of those things just make me wonder, how is that going to impact the games market, which a few years down the line will then impact, all of us playing games and the sorts of things that appear in these services.
Yeah, I think this is obviously them throwing the hat in the ring. I think if you look at Shuhei Yoshida's stuff that he's been doing with smaller indies in Japan, he's very clearly been on a crusade to go, listen, just come to the cool idea, we'll give you the money, we'll have this absolutely fly. So it seems like they are actually making decent waves on that, and I think it is where they are, obviously they're focused on PlayStation Studios, but that's the biggest hole in their market, is the death's door on Game Pass day one. I played it. I think they have a discount for it on PSN this time, but that was a thing where I could have played it on my PC or my PS5. I'd have rather played it on my PS5, but it was there as part of my Game Pass sub. So I think they can fix it up. It's just the kind of thing where this doesn't feel revolutionary. It doesn't feel like a great new thing. It feels like they're trying to fight off Game Pass. But if that means more indies, if that means more third parties, if that means a better deal for the consumer, damn straight.
Yeah, there could be some talk about, exclusivity and this being not great for consumers. But I would say there are so many indie games, Seriously, there's so many of them.
Too many.
You've not heard of 99.9% of them. Yep. You go click on that screenshot Saturday tag in Twitter, and you'll be able to infinitely scroll through games you've never heard of. Some of which look great. That's I did that recently, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
And there's so many games that I feel like some of those concerns basically won't be massive. I think there's actually plenty of room for both of them.
I mean, also here's the other thing where, in the initial burst of this, outside of, obviously exclusivity agreements working, what's to stop them from just going, Xbox say, we want this indie day one, and then Sony going, we'll have it as well. And if they have to start fighting, and then does that mean those 5 to 10 million that Square Enix got, does that price have to be ratcheted up because they now have to pay extra for the premium of exclusivity?
Yeah.
So I think this is all in all a good thing.
Yeah, so there we go. Good stuff's happening. Competition is happening. We'll have to see where it goes. But till then, that's it for us, and we'll see you next time.